Secretary of State Rex Tillerson making an appeal to the UN Security Council this morning, calling for new sanctions on North Korea, calling the nation a catastrophic threat. This after President Trump said a major conflict with North Korea is possible. So the question is, what happens next? And is diplomacy officially off the table? Let's bring in Foundation for Defense of Democracy's founder and president, Clifford May. Thank you, Clifford, for joining us. I guess my first question is Kim Jong-un rational enough to have a sit-down and conversation with and try and get some sort of diplomatic solution to this rising tension?
Well, I'm not sure anybody quite knows. I think the supposition is that he is rational, that he, at least in the sense that he wants to survive and he wants his regime to survive, that that's his most important priority. And if he thinks his regime or his person is in actual danger, then he may be willing to consider some compromises. Probably until he thinks that, he won't. And keep in mind that it has been his position, we believe, all along, that developing nuclear weapons and the means to deliver them anywhere in the world is something that strengthens him, strengthens his survival and that of his regime.
So the current tactic of ramping up the rhetoric and also, you know, some military hardware, the airstrikes on Syria, all sending a very strong message to Pyongyang. Does that work with the North Korean leadership or Kim Jong-un himself? Is that the right strategy to get him ultimately to back down?
I think it is the right strategy, although keep in mind, we have been grappling with this problem, with this North Korean regime, with Kim Jong-un, with his father, with his grandfather, and with the threat of nuclear weapons, certainly, for many years. 1994, there was something called the Framework Agreement President Clinton concluded, and President Clinton said this will keep North Korea from developing nuclear weapons. That did not happen. North Korea has developed nuclear weapons, is creating better missiles with which to deliver those nuclear weapons. I think the important point is what you've been hearing from the administration is that all options are on the table. Now, you hear that phrase all the time, but it's not always credible. What they mean by that is we'd like to do this diplomatically. If not, we have economic measures we can use that will really squeeze the regime in a way it's never been squeezed in the past, and that's true. And then if that doesn't work, we do have kinetic means. We have military means that we can use and we will use if necessary in order to prevent this regime from having a nuclear weapon that it can deliver to South Korea, to Japan, to Hawaii, and to the continental United States. It is very important that Kim Jong-un believes that we will take these measures. If we have to, we would rather not take the stringent measures, but they really are on the table, ready to be used if necessary.
Well, that certainly has been the message up to now. Ultimately, though, Clifford, is it China that holds the key? Can China get North Korea to back down through its own economic sanctions?
China can be the key. There's no question about that. I think what you're hearing is this, is that President Trump is saying to China, look, we would like your help and your cooperation to do this. It's important. You understand why it's important. If we don't have your cooperation, we will solve this on our own. And if we do that, the solution will not be as pleasant for you. In other words, what is China worrying about? It's worrying about refugees crossing its border by the tens of thousands, possibly. It's worrying about a collapse of the North Korean regime, which is its allies. It's worrying about a lot of things. Trump is essentially saying, look, we both agree, you said you agree, we want to denuclearize the Korean Peninsula. Again, you can do a lot. This is your client. You prop up this regime you have for years. You work on this with us, and we will keep your equities and your needs in mind. But if you won't, if you're going to leave it in our lap, we'll take care of it our way, and you may not be so pleased with the result. Again, the point is that this must be a credible message to China, to the North Koreans. They must see that he means to follow through. If they think he's just going to back off, that he's just bluffing, as the U.S. has in the past, they won't give an inch. You can bet on that.
Very quickly, Clifford, so how do you think this whole thing plays out? Do we continue to ramp up the rhetoric until eventually the North Koreans kind of take a step back or comply? I mean, you know, this is a game of chicken, high-stakes chicken game, is it not?
It's very much a high-stakes chicken game, and it's always difficult to predict. I think we're in an environment where it's particularly difficult to predict if the administration is very disciplined. And I do think that people such as Rex Tillerson and Mattis and Masters and McMaster, these are disciplined people. They will go a step at a time. They will say, let's do one thing, and if that doesn't work, let's escalate to the next step, and then the next step, and the next step. Now, that is not risk-free, but it's also not risk-free to do what we've been doing for the past 10, 20, almost quarter of a century, which is to say we will exercise strategic patience. In other words, we'll wait, we'll cross our fingers, we'll hope things turn out okay without doing anything serious about it. There are a lot of small steps that can be taken. Look, if we had the European Union just cooperating with us, we could be persona non grata. We could be throwing out diplomats from North Korea, from all these countries, and seriously isolating that regime. There are workers for North Korea all over the world working for a pittance. They're like slave laborers. They should all be sent home. We also need international cooperation that we haven't gotten. There are ways to exert real pressure before we get to the point of bombing or knocking down missiles, which we also have the capability to do. Missile defense can be an important part of this exercise.
Well, fascinating to watch. Clifford May, thank you so much for your expertise. Appreciate it. Thank you very much.